When it comes to career development, I do not want you to be one of the dumb ones. Hi, I'm Justin Hitt with Sustainable Wealth Secrets. If you're going to earn a salary ahead of inflation, meaning your buying power increases over the years, if you want to turn income into wealth, if you have a higher than average income and you want to sustain that lifestyle that income buys, then pay very close attention. I've got more than 20 years, it's 2 decades, in professional environments making 6 figures or better. Now that's inflation adjusted 6 figures as of today, but there were, in the 90s, I was making $98,000 and, $100,000 here and there. I'm not saying this to brag, but I'm saying this to help you understand that I know what it's like to be in the top 10%, the top 5% of incomes in your country. Everybody from human resources to companies are fighting against you to pay you less and to get more. I've been in environments where I've worked 72 hours straight. A lot of my doctor friends have the same problem. A lot of my IT services friends have the same problems. I work 72 hours straight to get a project done, and at the end of the project, I get a handshake, a pat on the back, and a kick out the door. It's the way it works, both from an economic standpoint of business, but also a way that labor relations kind of run. Now, to be fair, if you manage your money correctly, you have your personal brand and marketing, you position yourself in the marketplace as an expert, you will be able to move position to position and do very well. But it's not like in the 1980s where $100,000 was a superior living. Inflation, costs, government handouts, increases in taxes, all of these things together have put you in a position where it's going to be adversarial with your employer and your clients. Have you ever heard someone say, for all the money I'm paying you, you should be able to work all weekend? For everything you're getting paid, you shouldn't complain. Well, you've invested in your knowledge. You've invested in the talent and skills that you have. You've put time and effort into your career to be a professional, somebody who can solve big problems. And you should be rewarded for that when the marketplace demands the value you deliver. Because there are some caveats here that you could be making high money and your entire market fail. Imagine somebody who has multiple restaurants. They're making a great living. They've got multiple restaurants. It's a crime of passion in a sense of all the hours that they work. But it's affording them a lifestyle that takes care of their family, sends their kids to the best schools, makes sure that if they had an emergency, there's some money left over so that they have an emergency fund. And then one day they can retire at 65, 70 years old and not have the concerns that the typical American has. And then COVID comes along. And then the states start doing mandatory shutdowns. Now, not all states did that, but there are states in places like New York who shut down all of the restaurants, and more than 75% of those restaurants went out of business and will not open again. Someone went from a high income to no income in the stroke of a pen. Some governor making a dumb decision. Now, you can argue whether or not that's valuable, but while the restaurant's income went down and the owner's income went down, the doctor's incomes didn't go up, but their workload went up, and now they're in a hazardous situation. And somebody's going to say, well, for all the money that nurses get, for all the money that doctors get, that's why they're paid the big bucks. And they should be able to handle the around the clock. But the bottom line is that if you're treated poorly as an employee, as a contractor, then it's sometimes easier just to cut you have discipline to cut your expenses, downsize, and simply not just step out of the rat race. Now, of course, it's nicer if you can step out of the rat race with enough residual income from investments and your wealth actually spinning off cash flow. Then you're going to have a little bit of financial security. But it is my mission to help you navigate this system to transform income into net worth. I was recently talking with some recruiters and some human resources people. It is a human resources strategy to skim off the highest paid individuals and to see whether or not that those positions can't be outsourced. If those positions can't be done by a junior level staff, if those positions can't be optimized through automation. And it's a constant struggle. That's why it's not the same people in the top 10% all the time, or even the top 5%, or even the top 1%. It's a constant struggle because the organizations are trying to get the maximum labor for the minimum cost. Now, I understand you're trying to get the maximum pay for the minimum work. But there are areas where you've invested in engineering degrees, doctorate degrees, medical school. You've invested in specialization. You've taken risks to build a business. And then suddenly, unsuspectedly, something happens. Whether it's you're now at $190,000 a year and you got a great comp package and the company that you're working for is having problems, the industry that you're working for is having problems, and now you've got to switch. And you realize there aren't a lot of $190,000 a year jobs. There aren't $250,000 a year jobs. See, I talk a lot about how inflation eats away your buying power, and I give you that job offer challenge where you have that job offer, and whatever the job offer offered you in base salary and the year it offered you, you plug it into an inflation calculator, and then you suddenly realize that if you're working at a company for 5 years or more, you actually have half the buying power you originally had when you got hired. Now, again, it's all that arbitrage that we talk about. It's arbitrage where the company, again, is trying to get the maximum amount of labor for the minimum amount of money. And that's how they build their profits. Now, if you're an owner of the company and you've got a stake in the company and you gain equity value, maybe that's worth it. But then again, if you're the typical high-income earner, family person, got a family going on, you may have been forced to have dual incomes, which now you're going to suffer on the lifestyle side. And very often that limits your life satisfactions. It limits your choices. It limits your ability to grow and create wealth. Now, the secret is that we're smart people. And very often I work with smart people who are independently wealthy in the sense that they have enough assets in the bank, spinning off free net cash flow. It's not always in a bank. Sometimes it's rental properties. Sometimes it's other types of investments. But basically, they've got this nest egg spinning off cash. They've got a solid emergency fund. And they've got very little concerns, whether economics change, whether inflation comes. They've tailored and engineered their lifestyle by design to support their health and longevity. Now, in all fairness, some of these people choose to live off $30,000, $40,000 a year. So they earned six figures when they were younger, and they stocked away all that money. And now that they're older, their $1 million, $2 million, $3 million that's in the bank spends off about $40,000 in net cash flow, and they live off the $40,000 net cash flow. They travel state to state in an RV. They live in a modest home in a nicer community. They have vacation properties that they travel between. I've even met individuals that had 26 and 50-unit apartment buildings, and they lived in one of the rooms. Nobody knew that they owned the place, but they lived in like one of the little kind of, not even a penthouse. It's just nice. It's a nice apartment. Nobody knows they own the whole building because they actually hire a building foreman that manages the building, a building manager, or they have a management company that has an office outside. And now that they're retired and their kids are running the management office, they live in a little corner apartment and they just enjoy their life. You know, they're involved in their fraternal groups. They're members of the yacht club and, you know, not the fancy yacht club, just the regular yacht club. But ultimately, it is by design and by choice that they got this way. Now, one of the things that I'm doing here, because I'm so committed to you gaining these insights, you won't find them in books. You won't find the TV gurus talking about it because, again, if you're in the top 10% of incomes, then you're 1 in 10, and sometimes you're even 1 in 100 because you only need to make $350,000 a year to be in the top 1%, the top 2% of earning in the United States. And very often what we're able to do is I can take and lift the story, I can interview somebody, I can extract the methodology that they used, and I can package it up and make it available to you. You know, and the podcasts are simply just a taste of what's available. But again, I have tutorials, I have reports, I have training programs. And what we do is we convert your income into financial security through, first off, we want to make sure your insurance is taken care of, that you're of good health, good sound mind. We want to make sure your core family elements are taken care of. So what's important to you as far as family is concerned? We want to make sure that your housing, all the Maslow hierarchy of needs are taken care of. Sometimes you can do that with insurance. Sometimes you can do that with savings plans. Sometimes you can do it with employee stock options, 401k match. You know, there's a whole library of things you can do. And then we want to certainly be converting all your liabilities into assets, and then your assets into assets that cash flow, managing debt, taking care of other situations like that. You're in the right place if you're seeking financial security, but you've got to understand you're in a very adversarial world. See, banks see you got a high income and you got a high credit score. They want to offer you credit cards. They want to offer you all this high revenue for them, tools to give you the financial freedom. And you see movies that show you people who have fancy cars and beautiful houses. And you may even have gone to your friend's house and saw they have a beautiful house while you're eating like poor people and you're living in a little poor little shack. And you feel like, for all the money that I earn, I deserve a little bit more. You might have been told by recruiters about this new opportunity. And if you just come over here, you're going to make all kinds of money. But then you get over there and the $50,000 a year human resources person is spending every day trying to figure out how to get you out of there because you make the most money in the company. I've been in a lot of situations where I had no degree. I was the youngest person on the team and I was making the most money. Now, the reason it was like that is because I was solving huge problems. I have a different way of seeing the world. I have unique perspectives of running a company for 9 years and doing all this research and interviews. And I've had fabulous mentors that really gave me a head start. And altogether, I was delivering millions of dollars in new sales and business development opportunities, cost savings, risk avoidance, helping companies get out of big problems with consent orders and matters requiring attention, matters requiring immediate attention. I was able to do audit work. I was able to work with people that were far beyond my level, senior level executives, directors, vice presidents, CEOs of large corporations. But that makes me unique in a field. And while it pays well, if I make dumb decisions, then the gap between these opportunities is going to basically kill me. So there have been times in complete transparency that I have had 6 months on the beach. Now, I wasn't actually on the beach. I was looking for the next contract. But I go from making a really good income to making like $1,000 a month. And so what I'm doing is taking every penny I get and reinvesting it in the next opportunity, reinvesting it in am I going to work for a startup? Am I going to become an employee? Am I going to do contract work? Am I going to basically try to ramp up the royalties? A lot of times I have royalties as my backstop so that I don't have to touch investments or I don't have to cash out any types of longer term investments. But again, these methodologies are tailor-made to your needs based on what has been working for years for high-income professionals and wealthy individuals. Now, many times what will happen is you'll go from a high-income professional, so a Henry, high earnings, not rich yet, to a high net worth individual. So you'll get $3 to $4 million under your belt, and that money will spin off other money, and you'll get to a point where you can do whatever the hell you want. Now, my goal is for that to happen earlier than later, and to also help you with some of the social constructs, which is doing whatever you want doesn't mean spending all you have. You can't have joy, excitement, a quality of life without the money. And so when we talk about helping you turn business relationships into profits, I'm not talking about profits financially only. Sometimes being able to get out of a bad situation is perfect. Have you ever heard of golden handcuffs? You end up contracted to a company, you're making a high salary, and you can't leave. You see the companies doing stuff that you don't feel ethically that they should be doing, and you can't leave. Got a non-disclosure. You can't tell anybody. If you whistleblow, you might not ever work in that industry again. So how do you get in a position where you have the security and the freedom to just walk away? Pay the contract cancellation and walk away. And now you don't have to walk away and burn the place down. You can simply say, hey, I found a better opportunity. Thank you for the opportunity. Let's move on. See, a lot of high-income professionals, they've got a high income, but they've got no autonomy. They've got no freedom. They're monitored like little children, and they have to work 100 hours a week, 70 hours a week, and the upside is just not there. It's not promised. They got you in at the high income, and you're afraid to leave. Well, what Sustainable Wealth Secrets does is puts you in a position where you're back in control. You're more independent. And being independent, you can make decisions like, would it be tax beneficial to work as a 1099 employee rather to work as an employee, a regular employee? Or if you're comparing two positions, what is the total compensation difference between opportunity A or opportunity B? These types of things help you make better decisions, help you get better results, and help you go to the next level. So I hope I've given you some tips here. There are methods to transform your income into wealth. There are adversarial relationships where human resources, while they love you and they want the work out of you, very often they want the work now as much as possible. And if you burn out within a week, they're going to have a replacement for you. They're going to do tricks like lateral moves. They're going to do tricks like, oh, well, we've got to get approval for any salary change more than 10%. So you can fall behind. So if every year for 5 years, you're getting a 2% raise and now you're 20% behind the marketplace and they're going to have to get an approval for anything over 10% and your company's, feeling the pain, you're going to take what the devil for 5% rather than going out into the marketplace where you might get 20 or 30% more. Now, again, money's not everything, but it beats being homeless and it sure makes life a bit more comfortable. It's how you use the money which creates the outcomes. We teach you that here at Sustainable Wealth Secrets. So if you have any questions about what I'm sharing here, you can visit me, Justin Hitt of Sustainable Wealth Secrets, at the website www.sustainablewealthsecrets.com. That's all one word. You're going to go to the little contact link and you're going to send me a fax or a letter with your questions. Now, this seems a little old-fashioned, but you and I know that if you write down a question, you're going to think about it a little bit more. It's not going to be a brain fart. And this is going to save you a tremendous amount of time over searching the internet, because most of what's on the internet is written for the 9 out of 10 people who don't make good money. Or they make good money for a couple months and they're not sustained about it. I want for you sustainable growth. A high income for a long period of time, low cost of living, the high net value or free net cash flow being invested so that you build up a nest egg, opportunities that increase your wealth, opportunities that grow your choices and give you financial freedom. Thanks for listening.